All right. So in your own past, before you started your company, were you exposed to any kind of internship program at your employer?
I was actually. So I was exposed to that both as a someone in management, but
Hmm.
then I've also helped a couple companies put together a mixture of internship programs, kind of melded in with mentor programs, if you will.
Okay. All
So
right.
the thing that I have found interesting is there's two different trains of thought as to why you would have an internship program. So that might be kind of the best place to start here for the discussion. The first one is the old school approach, which is we're going to get a bunch of youngins that come in here, cheap labor, or maybe not even pay them at all. And we're going to put them in the mailroom, which that tells you how old that comment is, right?
Right. We have
And
to
they're
start somewhere, right? So
right. And
start in
they're
the
just
mailroom.
gonna sit there passing boxes around, sorting through mail, and hey, they should be lucky to be here,
Hmm.
right? That's kind of the old school approach. It's like, 80s, 90s. It's like that's what you do with your
Or
interns.
or you bring in an intern with a college degree, and their primary job is to make coffee
Yeah.
and serve up snacks, throughout the day. Yeah.
I mean, look, I like snacks,
Right.
but I would argue, for the purpose of our discussion today, that is not the best use of what interns can offer. And so I really do think that that's where we should focus our time today, and really sorting through if you're going to go through the process of building out an intern program, even if that intern program only brings in one individual. So we don't necessarily have to look at this as we're bringing in a dozen or more people,
Right. Right.
but what are we hoping to achieve with bringing that individual in? And I really want us to kind of focus on what's a new way of thinking here. So I'm curious to get your perspective on if we're going to go through the process of bringing an intern in, and maybe that program is kind of an ad hoc thing where, they're
Hmm.
still in school
Hmm.
and they're coming in and they're doing 5 hours a week, right? So it's a pretty low level commitment.
Hmm.
What could the business hope to get out of that kind of a relationship?
Well, okay, it's funny you asked that because in situations where I've been in where people have been struggling to figure out, is this something we even want to do? The first question from folks that are pushing back will come up with is, well, what am I supposed to have them do? They're used to hiring people who already have a certain level of knowledge and experience in some discipline. So you kind of feel like you can orient the person, leave them alone, and they'll get stuff done. Whereas with an intern, they may not know anything other than what the company does as a primary purpose. So a lot of your managers are saying, okay, well, now I've got to figure out what this person's going to do, and then I've got to oversee them. So there's a lot of pushback for even wanting to go in this direction. And a lot of times we really had to search for what's the benefit to us. And the only thing that people ever came up with that everybody could buy into was maybe this is a way of kind of giving people experience about who we are as a company. So when they graduate, maybe they'll come back and work for us. They'll have a sense of who we are, how we operate. We're a known quantity to them. And that was really the only overriding benefit that I ever came up with. So, you know, that's kind of where I am with the whole thing. Sure, is it important? Have we done it with success? Yes, but there's usually more pushback than there is people putting their arms around the concept and saying, "Yeah, let's start this next week."
Look, and I agree with that. I think that there's two things that for a business come out of, and two positive things, if you will, that come out of doing an internship. You hit the first one. It's a recruiting tool.
Hmm.
You get to bring people in that are kind of fresh, right? They're wet behind the ears. Maybe they're still in school or they're just getting ready to graduate. And maybe that gives you the opportunity to really assess someone over a couple week period, couple month period, and maybe it ends up being a recruiting tool. I will tell you this, if that's all it ends up being, that's a great reason to have an internship program.
Mm.
Flat, done.
Right, right,
You don't need any more reason other than that.
right.
Statistically, when you're going to hire, you could end up spending a month or two trying to find someone fresh out of school. You have no idea what their ability is going to be, or even if they're going to work. the average tenure for someone coming out of school is barely 15 months.
Mm,
Right? So just from that standpoint alone, which doesn't even bring up, did you use a recruiter to bring them in and then the
right,
cost associated with that?
right,
Take all that out or take that into consideration. Those are excellent reasons to have an internship program because it's kind of this whole idea of you get to try before you buy,
right.
right?